There's been some bad blood at times, Tony. But I'm gonna be calling in a favor one of these days. And so I'm fine with it.
When Parker Schnabel's foreman finally broke his silence, no one could have predicted the explosive revelations about Tony Beets' secret operations.
Regret that you treated Parker the way you did last season?
What did they do last year anyway? Can we start there?
Hidden beneath the snow, dirt, and routine work at the Klondike, the claims seemed ordinary, yet subtle signs of manipulation hinted at a hidden strategy. From secret trenches to covert gold redirection, every discovery suggested a plan far more calculated than anyone imagined. But what exactly did the foreman reveal? And why does it threaten to upend Parker's season and expose Tony's carefully guarded empire? This is the story. Hidden in the Yukon shadows. Beneath the heavy, slate-gray skies of the Yukon, Parker Schnabel feels the land itself resisting him. The snow-covered ridges and frozen riverbeds seem to shift subtly underfoot, hiding more than just ice and frost. They conceal opportunity, competition, and, perhaps most dangerously, secrets. Every crunch of snow under his boots, every distant hum of a loader, feels loaded with meaning. For months, murmurs have moved through the valley, hints of strange activity at Tony Beets' sprawling claim. Miners talk in half-whispers, sharing stories of machinery moving in the dead of night, unusual excavation patterns, and sudden changes that don't align with natural shifts in the earth. Yet nothing concrete has surfaced. Until now. It starts with the foreman, a seasoned figure who's spent years beside Parker, learning to read intentions as clearly as the land itself. He moves carefully, each step crunching on frost-hardened ground, his breath misting in the icy air, eyes alert and calculating. "There's something you must see," he murmurs, low and urgent. The words slice through the still, cold morning like a sudden storm. Parker feels their weight instantly. This isn't idle gossip or a casual warning. What the foreman reveals is raw, undeniable truth, heavy with risk, and capable of changing everything. The foreman reveals a shocking discovery on the Beets' claim. A secret trench, meticulously dug, running deep and precise, cunningly aimed to disrupt Parker's pay layer. Heavy machinery hums under bright floodlights well past the usual working hours, while crews move silently, leaving no record in any official logs. The danger is immediate and unnerving. This is far beyond ordinary competition. Every detail suggests a deliberate, strategic move meant to seize control of Parker's claim and reroute the gold, all without sparking a single formal challenge or confrontation. As the foreman carefully reveals the specifics, the precise coordinates, the schedule, the collected evidence, it becomes startlingly clear that Tony's maneuvers are far more cunning than anyone imagined. Every detail, from the trench's exact angle to the routes of the heavy machinery, reflects careful planning, deep knowledge, and a daring defiance of usual conventions. Tony Beets is no ordinary competitor. He operates behind the scenes, turning every decision into a deliberate, strategic move. Each action is a calculated step in a high-stakes game of advantage. Parker absorbs the information quietly, his mind racing. The Yukon's harsh landscape suddenly feels alive with secrets, watching, responding. If Tony has been hiding this much, the stakes for the season are higher than ever. Every ounce of gold, every measure of success, could be influenced by this hidden channel. And now, with the foreman's revelation, Parker knows that the true challenge is not just the land. It is uncovering the secret beneath it before the season slips further from his grasp. Parker Schnabel's foreman gives insight into what he believes is Tony Beets' secret. But what does he reveal? And how deeply could it affect Parker and the Klondike's mining world? Now, let's explore a silent strike beneath the Yukon snow. The foreman speaks. Under the biting cold of the Yukon, the air seemed to hold its breath. Parker Schnabel and his foreman stood at the edge of the claim, the valley stretching out beneath a pale, steel-gray sky. For weeks, rumors had drifted through the camps, subtle signs that something unusual was afoot on Tony Beets' property, but no one had dared to speak them aloud. Now, the silence broke. The foreman, a man who had seen every kind of trick the Klondike could produce, leaned in, his voice low and deliberate, cutting through the stillness. He spoke of a trench, freshly dug, deep and precise, carved into Tony Beets' claim under the cover of night. It was no ordinary excavation. Every line, every angle, had been carefully calculated to intersect the pay layer Parker had been chasing all season. The ground beneath Parker's boots seemed to hum with tension as the foreman laid out the details. Heavy machinery running past official hours, lights blazing into the night, a skeleton crew moving with quiet, deliberate purpose. This was not mere rivalry. It was a strategy, a silent, calculated attempt to redirect the flow of gold itself. Parker's mind whirred, piecing together months of puzzling patterns, setbacks, and irritations. Each slowed run, each subtle shift in the pay layer, now fit perfectly. The trench wasn't an accident. It wasn't a chance. Tony had mapped the ground, watched Parker's every move, and struck with exacting skill. The sheer boldness of it washed over Parker like winter's first frost, stunning, chilling, and impossible to ignore, leaving him both awed and unsettled by the calculated precision of his old mentor. The implications hit him with full force. If the trench succeeded in rerouting the gold, it could rob Parker's claim of its season's yield. More than that, it challenged the unwritten code of trust that held the Klondike together. Miners relied on boundaries, on respect for what each claimed, and on the knowledge that the land revealed its secrets only once, if you were paying attention. Tony's covert maneuver threatened not just wealth, but reputation, momentum, and legacy. For a long moment, Parker simply stared across the frozen expanse, imagining the gold flowing silently into someone else's hands, the weight of ambition pressing down with a cold certainty. He exhaled, steadying himself. This was more than a trench. It was a challenge, a warning, a test of wits, patience, and resolve. The foreman's eyes met his, sharing the unspoken understanding. The next steps would require strategy, precision, and the kind of careful observation only the Yukon could demand. Tony Beets had made his move under darkness and secrecy, but the land never lies. Parker knew one thing for certain. What had been hidden was now revealed, and the season, the claims, and the Klondike itself would never be the same again. The foreman claimed that Tony Beets' late-night work and skeleton crew are a deliberate effort to divert gold to his own interests. But does the foreman have convincing evidence to back up his claim? And if so, how genuine is it? Let's delve into the details. Evidence, maps, and hidden channels. Parker Schnabel and his crew pored over the evidence with a mix of awe and caution, knowing that every piece could tilt the balance of the season. Maps, notes, and samples were spread across the long metal table in the operations tent, illuminated by the harsh glare of fluorescent lights. Each trench location, each core sample, every faint tire track and scrape on the frozen earth told a story. And together, they were beginning to form a picture that was impossible to ignore. Decades-old geological maps, long forgotten and gathering dust in remote mining archives, resurfaced as if summoned by the urgency of the moment. Lines and symbols, once dismissed as minor notations, would hinted at a channel of gold flowing in a way no one had anticipated. It was subtle, hidden beneath layers of soil and snow. A secret that had been lying dormant for years until Tony Beets stumbled upon it. The more Parker studied, the more he realized the depth of the deception. This was not a lucky find or a casual oversight. Tony had quietly redirected the flow of gold, siphoning wealth from Parker's claim while leaving no trace for casual observers, except for the careful notes and observations that Parker now held in his hands. Every detail mattered: the angles of the trenches, the fresh tire tracks in snow softened by storms, the precise placement of machinery. All of it spoke to an operation executed with precision and planning. The core samples told their own story: denser, richer gravel than Parker had seen in weeks, flowing from a channel that should have fed his own claim. The evidence suggested one undeniable truth: Tony had discovered a hidden vein of gold and was exploiting it methodically, quietly, and without apology. Parker's mind raced, weighing every possible scenario. If he acted too soon, he could alert Tony and risk losing the advantage. Move too late, and months of work, season-long preparation, and potential fortune could slip through his fingers. Every observation, every record, every faint sign from the land itself could reveal the extent of Tony's secret operation and guide Parker toward his next move in this high-stakes game of strategy, secrecy, and survival. The tension in the tent was palpable. The crew exchanged glances, knowing that what they were uncovering was bigger than a simple rivalry. This was a battle over territory, legacy, and wealth, played out not with words, but in snow, gravel, and shadows beneath the Yukon sky. Parker straightened, determination hardening in his eyes. The ground had spoken, the evidence was clear, and the next move would determine more than just the outcome of a single season. It could redefine the entire balance of power in the Klondike. There are convincing documents and maps to support the point raised by Parker's foreman. But will they go further and use the map to physically verify the claim? Will this on-site verification confirm what the foreman said? Or will they uncover something entirely unexpected? Let's find out. The land speaks the truth. As the first pale light of Yukon morning stretches across the frozen valley, Parker Schnabel moves with purpose, leading his crew toward the disputed stretch of land. The cold bites through their gloves, and each breath rises in soft clouds that quickly vanish into the icy air. There is no chatter, no wasted motion, only a tense anticipation that seems to hang over the snow-covered ground like a living thing. This isn't just another survey. It is a careful, methodical hunt for truth. A search that could decide the fate of the entire season. The crew assembled the drilling rig with flawless precision, every movement smooth and intentional. The auger gnawed into the frozen ground, humming a low, steady rhythm that trembled faintly through the boots of onlookers. Parker's gaze was keen, tracking the drill's angle, the depth it reached, and the way it sliced through layers of gravel. Each vibration, each subtle shift, spoke volumes, revealing secrets buried beneath the ice. In this harsh, silent landscape, every detail could mean success or failure. The first core sample is pulled from the earth, and Parker's pulse quickens. Fingers brushing against the coarse gravel and rich, gold-flecked sediment, he feels the unmistakable confirmation of what the trench had hinted at in the night's shadows. The gold-bearing material is thicker, richer, and clearly redirected, funneled with precision into territory controlled by Tony Beets. One by one, the cores come up, each repeating the same damning truth. The patterns are too deliberate, too calculated to be natural. Tony hasn't just stumbled upon fortune, he has orchestrated it, reshaping the flow of gold to suit his advantage. Parker's gaze sweeps across the valley. The rising sun stretches long shadows over the ridges, as if the land itself is pointing out the hidden channels, the rerouted veins, the secretive hand that has manipulated its resources. There is a weight to this revelation, a gravity that presses down harder than the cold ever could. Every step they have taken, every observation recorded, every piece of evidence gathered has led to this moment of clarity. The stakes have never been higher. Tony's discovery is more than a treasure. It is a game changer. It could redefine the season, tipping the balance of power in the valley. Parker knows that how he moves next could determine not only his claim's fate, but the rhythm of mining in the entire region. Strategy, patience, and precision will be essential. The Yukon has always tested its miners, rewarding insight and punishing missteps. Now, as Parker studies the golden veins and the evidence laid bare by the morning light, he understands the challenge fully. Tony Beets has hidden something extraordinary, and Parker's next move will decide who truly commands the wealth beneath the snow. Parker discovered that gold had been deliberately rerouted to Tony's advantage when he physically verified his foreman's claim. But how did Parker and Tony's story begin? Is Tony now paying back Parker for past actions, or have they always been allies? Now, let's explore the high-stakes clash that has defined their survival. From mentor to rival. The story of Parker Schnabel and Tony Beets is one of the most powerful and long-running storylines in Gold Rush. It is not just about gold totals or machinery. It is about growth, pride, lessons learned, and what happens when a student finally stands eye to eye with his teacher. Their relationship began with respect and guidance, slowly evolved into competition, and has now hardened into a tense rivalry shaped by ambition and legacy. Years ago, Tony Beets was already a legend in the Klondike. Known as the King of the Klondike, he had decades of experience, vast land holdings, and the confidence of a man who had survived every kind of mining disaster. When Parker was still young and proving himself, Tony saw potential where others saw inexperience. He opened doors for Parker, giving him access to richer ground like Scribner Creek, land that could make or break a miner's future. That opportunity changed everything for Parker. Under Tony's rough but effective mentorship, Parker learned lessons that went far beyond digging dirt. He learned how contracts truly work, how leverage can shift power, and why good ground is more valuable than shiny equipment. Tony taught him that mining is as much about strategy as it is about hard labor. These lessons became the foundation of Parker's success. With discipline, risk-taking, and a relentless drive, Parker began to build his own mining empire, one season at a time. But success has a way of changing relationships. As Parker grew stronger, more confident, and more independent, the balance between mentor and student began to shift. The gap in experience narrowed. The respect remained, but it was now mixed with a hint of competition. Both men wanted the same thing: control of the best ground, the biggest gold totals, and dominance in the Klondike. Sharing resources like water rights became less about cooperation and more about tension simmering just below the surface. In recent seasons, the tension had grown undeniable, reaching heights neither Parker nor Tony could ignore. Parker was no longer the eager apprentice seeking guidance. He had transformed into a formidable rival, challenging Tony ounce for ounce with skill and cunning. Meanwhile, Tony faced a battle against more than just the treacherous earth. Time itself was slipping away. The once unshakable title of King of the Klondike was no longer certain, leaving Tony to confront both legacy and the relentless pressures of change. Today, their shared history makes every disagreement heavier. Every boundary dispute, every strategic move feels personal. Parker's rise now directly challenges Tony's legacy. What once was mentorship has transformed into open conflict, where old lessons collide with new ambition. In the unforgiving Yukon, where only the strongest survive, their story proves that in gold mining, respect can turn into rivalry, and history can become the most powerful force of all. Tony once mentored Parker, teaching him the skills and strategies of gold mining. But now, with Parker's mining empire on the line, will he let his former mentor keep taking advantage? Or will he confront Tony once and for all? Let's find out. The climactic confrontation, the moment Parker had been preparing for all season, finally arrived. The frozen Yukon Valley lay under a muted gray sky, the snow crisp and unbroken except for the paths carved by men and machines. Parker's boots crunched through the frost as he approached the edge of Tony Beets' claim, each step heavy with purpose. Behind him, his trusted crew followed silently, their breath visible in the cold air, their eyes fixed on the distant trench that had become the center of this silent war. Tony Beets waited silently, his weathered hat shadowing a face as hard and unreadable as the Yukon ridges behind him. His eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the frozen landscape, while the distant rumble of machinery dimmed, as if the land itself held its breath. Parker halted a few steps away, the wide trench between them splitting the earth like a deep, living scar. The crisp air seemed thick with tension, charged and electric, every moment pregnant with the unspoken question, who would make the first move? Without preamble, Parker spoke. He laid out everything: the trench dug under cover of darkness, the careful redirection of gold-bearing gravel, the resurfaced historical maps that hinted at a forgotten channel, and the tire tracks that confirmed Tony's secret activity. Each word hung in the cold air like a spark, illuminating the full weight of the deception. Tony listened quietly, his usual bravado tempered by the gravity of the moment. Finally, Tony responded, measured and deliberate. He did not deny the actions. Instead, he framed them as a move born of necessity and opportunity, not malice. "The land speaks for itself," he said, voice gravelly. "A miner either acts when he sees a chance, or loses it forever." It was an explanation rooted in the ruthless logic of survival in the Klondike. But to Parker, the breach of trust cut deep. What Tony had done was more than clever. It was a violation of an unspoken code that held the mining world together. Parker's thoughts spun like wildfire, torn between seeking justice and playing a strategic game. He could confront Tony aggressively, trigger legal probes, and risk shattering the delicate balance of the valley. Or he could move with careful precision, charting the claim meticulously, gathering solid evidence and revealing the truth without stirring chaos. Every choice carried weight, and a single misstep could unleash costly consequences, threatening everything he had built. As the wind stirred the snow in spirals around them, Parker realized the truth of the Yukon. Secrets rarely stay buried. Gold, like life, is ruled by timing, knowledge, and foresight. What Tony had uncovered and tried to conceal was more than wealth. It was leverage, power, and the fragile balance of an entire season. Parker's gaze swept over the trench, the machines, the quiet landscape beyond. One thing was certain. In this high-stakes game, only those who understood the land, the timing, and the secrets beneath the snow would come out on top. And Parker Schnabel was ready to play that game. on the Yukon's terms. So, what do you make of Parker's foreman's shocking revelation? Will Parker take legal action or simply step up his game against Tony? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.